So somebody in the Discord channel mentioned a Curse the Dead Gods weapon tier list, and I am happy to oblige, although it might take a while. I'm going to give my opinion on every single weapon, although some of them I will be pretty biased towards or have no opinion with, because I either haven't played much with them, had a bad experience with them, or just haven't dropped as a boss weapon, goddammit. So we have the different categories that we'll be going through, which are S, A, B, C, D, like really simple, and then a hindrance weapon. Mainly this is like this thing over here, right? The fist can go in here like right now. Well, it's not even that bad. We'll come back to it. There are some things in there. Also, I'm going to add a row below called, I should have called it something. Can I add it in? Oh, there we go. My alarm is going off. This is a very well thought out. And the cat is trying to attack my microphone. There we go. Everything's going so well. So, oops, you're not supposed to go up. You're supposed to go down. It's like one of the first time I used this website for this thing. Oh my God! Please just let me enter some stuff. Unplayed. Also, my E-key's dying. That's just another thing. We have unplayed and then hindrance here. So we'll go through the list. This is. Wait, this is alphabetical order. I tried to make it so we went through weapon categories first, but honestly, like every single image got messed up. So we're going through alphabetical. So this is, I believe, God damn, I can't even pronounce the first one. Abnegation? Wait, huh? My God. Abnegation. There we go. Absneaming. Alright, so this is just, I'm just placing it somewhere. Honestly, I'm not very impressed with this weapon. I'm gonna give it like a C over here. It doesn't, I don't actually, like, it's so uncommon for me to run this weapon that I have, like, I don't even know its effect, like, properly. I know it does dark damage, right? I think it's, is it uninterruptible spin attacks? Like, it's pretty boring ability. The Alchemist pistol, I'll put in B. Not a big fan of pistols in general, because they spend stamina like crazy. But Alchemist actually has a redeeming quality with the fact that if you spend the hassle of actually doing final shots on everything, then you might actually get some value out of it. The Parry shield, also I'm gonna go through like the wrong names for all of those. Wait, I have the list over here, I can tell you the name. It's the Ancient Buckler over here. Ancient Buckler, S tier, like straight up. Giving crits to any weapon, well, any primary weapon, is so worth it. You might actually forget to run a secondary weapon. This one, I'll always have to check the names. It's Annihilation. So Annihilation, honestly, I'll put in unplayed. I haven't played enough to really feel like you'll see most of the bows will come in that category. I haven't played bows since the rework, so I can't really tell anything about bows. Although, for my little experience, I do like them. Although I do remember this bow being, pretty good, except in a challenge. So yeah, it's a pretty, like, if I had to put it like before rework, I would put it in like B tier. After rework, I have no idea, so it's unplayed. Also, the cat wants in the video. Alright, this spear is called, keep this open. This is the Barbed Javelin. Barbed Javelin, I believe, is weaken on finisher. Weaken on finisher, I'd say, we'll probably move around. The cat is trying to attack the microphone. This is the worst setup I've ever seen. Oh, there we go. Alright, the Barbed Javelin goes in B for now. Yeah, we'll just move it later. I believe the spears will go up in ranking because they're pretty good. Reflex Shield. It's a shield, so it has value. But honestly, its ability itself isn't that impressive. I'm gonna put it into B. I was tempted into putting into C, but then I looked at the Fire Shield and I was like, yeah, no. Fire Shield is a C. This one actually has like a good purpose. So I'm hitting a microphone. There we go. So I'm trying to close some stuff so I can get access to my stuff better. All right, we are at Blazing Blade. Yes, alliteration is cool. All right, Blazing Blade. Not very interesting. Not a bad weapon per se. You can get fire relic percentage damage on it. Although they did nerf those relics. I guess like swords are pretty unremarkable. I'm gonna put it in C. Blazing Shield is a C tier too. It doesn't do anything special really. I mean, you can get fire relic damage. This spear called, what's it? Bloodstake. Bloodstake is pretty cool. It's pretty good. You do lose the finisher damage, but you do get a crit on all range. And piercing too. Like you can get some really sweet shots with piercing stuff. So I'm gonna put it in A for now. This is the finisher throws a spear, by the way. We have Beltweeper over here. It's a heavy weapon. Honestly, I don't use Beltweeper, but it's because I don't use heavy weapons. So I'm gonna put Beltweeper in C tier because it's heavy, but it's like a above average heavy. Right? Blunt Claw. Blunt Claws are pretty boring, but they're claws, so they go in B tier. We have, I can never tell the difference between those two. This is the Bone Shard Whip. Bone Shard Whip, I would say, is a pretty solid B tier. Desperation is also pretty solid, above this one. So this is crit on kill. It's good for wave clear, like, and when I say wave clear, I mean like group clear. And here we have a Desperation Flail, which from personal experience is worse than the base flail. Wait, is this the base flail? Is this Desperation? Wait a minute. Yeah, this is Braided. Braided goes up. Braided is actually really good. It's better than Desperation. It's more reliable. It actually does so much base damage. Let me get the wiki out. We have a lot of Unity debug questions. You can pause that if you want. If we go into weapons over here, which is where I took the images. Great job, Mixa, by the way, for doing all the hard work of cataloging all of those. If we go back to, which one is it? Well, let's go into whip categories, which should be down here. If you look at the Braided Whip, it does 36 base damage, as opposed to Desperation Flail's 28, which means that the 15% per missing point of stamina actually doesn't come in until much later, because the Braided Whip does so much base. It's actually really good for speedruns. I will fight you on that one. We have the, how do they call it in game? Let me get this list I have. They call it the broadsword, which makes sense. Broadsword goes in C tier. It's a above average heavy. We have this piece of garbage. It goes in D tier. That's like the base heavy. How is it called? It's called the broken longsword, which for the longest time I thought it was an axe. So sorry about Cataclysm I actually haven't dropped because the twins refused to drop this weapon for some reason. Ceremonial Dagger goes in S tier, no questions asked, because perception scaling with a dagger is insane. Chipped Dagger. How much damage does Chipped Dagger do? I don't actually play with it. Not often. Chipped Dagger is 37. It's pretty solid. Honestly, I would put it on par with Duelist, and Duelist is a solid A. So I guess it goes in A. Chroma Knives. Chroma Knives are fun. But it's like the affix might as well be called like 33% chance to do damage. But like I kind of like them. They're really fun to use, and I think the fun factor actually makes them better. So I'm gonna put them in B tier, even though they're arguably a C. But like they scale really well off elemental relics, and you can get all of them, right? So you can just pick any elemental relics, and instead of being like a 45% damage, you end up having a third of the percentage on average, right? Applicable. There we go. This, what's the name of this claw again? It's the Evisceration Claw. Evisceration Claw I don't play enough with. What's the effect? Oh, yeah, my E key's broken, by the way. Evisceration is deals critical damage against enemies under 30% health. Honestly, I'll give it like a B. It does like as much damage as the Blunt Claw, so I guess like it has to go in B if I put Blunt Claw. Honestly, Blunt Claw doesn't do much, but it's a claw, which means it combos well with daggers, which means it's it gets bumped up. All right, Crackling Bomb. This might be controversial because a lot of people have heated arguments about bombs, but in my opinion, bombs are actually pretty decent in the early stage, and then they fall off unless you use them as utility. And crackling bombs cannot be used as utility, and thus they go in C tier, the same tier as the good heavies, because I believe that bombs are essentially, you know, a different flavor of heavies, but with shotgunning potential. So they are essentially better heavies, except for the fact that, you know, you can't attack someone next to you. But I do think the shotgunning potential makes them better than regular heavies. Now we have like the next bow in the category. I do like the weakened bow. This is the Crippling Bow. Crippling Bow is a solid A, B. Like it's a solid B and probably an A tier. So I'm gonna put it in A tier. The sword goes in S. Sword of Conjunctivus. If I pronounce that right, probably not. Cursed Sword, let's say. Cursed Sword goes in S tier, and well, it's a make or break weapon, right? So it's a really good weapon. Like you just win the run with this weapon, or you lose it instantly, and it's one of the two. Or you like spend 15 minutes, get to Clovis, and get hit by the first arrow. But, you know, you win some, you lose some. Desperation. I think it's actually called Desperation Flail. Desperation Flail is a pretty decent mace. For now, we'll put it in B tier. B tier is going to be pretty crowded. Okay, so we're getting to the next bombs. This is Devouring Orbs. Devouring Orbs is some pretty good utility. You can essentially clump up every enemy in the room, and then switch to, you know, as your primary weapons and use some AoE with either a gun or a whip or, you know, any like good clearing ability weapon that you have. So I do think that the Annihilating Orbs, or what is it called? Devouring Orbs, are actually worth the B tier. They're really good utility. Now we have Disemboweler. Right? Disemboweler, well, is better than the base Claw than those, so it goes in B tier, but they're not that much better. And I feel like we're missing some tiers. We might add some tiers. Alright, we have the Snake, the Dragon Sleeve Gun. Honestly, Dragon Sleeve Gun, haven't played much. My experience with it has been disappointing. I feel it doesn't do that much immediate damage. Like, it does some good damage overall, but it feels so slow to play. So, personally, I'll put it in C tier. Now, Duelist Shiv, as I said, is a solid A. It's better than Chipped because it has an effect. Then we have this fancy bow called Effulgence. Effulgence is actually like really good, and I'll put it at like the top of A tier. You can win a run with Effulgence pretty easy. Granted, if you can parry properly, which I can't. We have Evasive Knives. Okay, so now we're getting to throwing weapons. Throwing weapons are really fun. They're better on mouse and keyboard because you can shotgun with them. I would say any throwing weapon goes in A tier immediately. And the simple reason is you can stun like enemies with parry canceling throwing weapons, and it's cheesy, and it's definitely a cheese, but it's so strong as a technique that it ends up being overpowering in terms of playstyle. It's not actually fun to play. Actually, no. Okay, let me rephrase that. Throwing weapons are probably my favorite weapon type in the game. They're really, really fun to aim at. Like with shotgunning, they are so active as a weapon type. They're really fun to play with. The thing is, they're so easy to cheese with parry canceling that they can get boring if you're doing the optimal route. But as a general purpose weapon, they are still... So I would say, like, using throwing weapons the intended way, and I do mean shotgunning. All right, I do feel like shotgunning is an integral part of throwing weapons, which you can't really do on console controllers. But just hear me out. Shotgunnings as an integral part of throwing weapons make them like a really, really high B tier, but the parry canceling made them overpowered, which means they go in A. We have the crossbow, and this will probably be the same thing with most of the throwing weapons, except maybe weighted blades and Heartseekers that go in S. We have the crossbow of the condemned over here. It's a really good gun. It's pretty much... I've seen people referring to it as a better bomb, or a bomb that doesn't lock you in, and that's pretty accurate. I would put the crossbow of the condemned in top B tier. You get offhand crits on it, and you can ruin the run pretty easy. It does a lot of damage, and it's a really, really easy stun. Well, is it an interrupt or a stun? I can never recall. And it's actually some pretty sweet mobility. Now, wait, when I ranked this one, was I even talking about the right weapon? Charge attacks, interrupts. Oh yeah, it's the interrupt. Yeah. Actually, I was thinking maybe I ranked Moonblade. Moonblade is really, really, really fun with the crossbow. I would recommend it 100%. If you get crossbow with Moonblade, or you have a crossbow and you get offered Moonblade, pick Moonblade. I know Moonblade's not that good, but it's so fun. Alright, we have over here, where are we in the list? We have the Feathered Spear. I don't play spears much. They used to be cheese. Well, not really, but they used to be like pretty overpowered. nice trade for them from them, because you know, playing everyone with a spear is kind of boring. But the thing is, like, spears at the moment are in a really, really good place. Well, and well, they're pretty fun. So I'm gonna put Feathered Spear next to Weaken. The reason is getting extra stamina on kill. Same as, especially with Brutal Temper. Like, this is like my speedrunner instinct kicking in. Getting some really easy kills and chaining on enemies and chaining the packs and keeping your stamina up is really good. Alright, so we have this whip. I haven't played much. Flagellation. It's a whip that gives extra damage. So actually, how much base damage is Flagellation? That might just give you a baseline because I haven't played much. It's about the same as Desperation Flail. So it's a Desperation Flail with about 3.5 stamina missing. So I would say it's about Braided Whip, above Braided Whip levels. So I'm doing a calculation in my head, like objectively ranking. If I'm putting this thing in A tier, well, this thing is going in like low A tier because it's conditional. Actually, what's the base damage again? 29. Yeah, it's about the Bone Shard, but you can crit on demand with a percentage instead of multiplier. Anyway, Forge Hammer. Forge Hammer crits on fire enemies. Actually, the first weapon loadout with which I won the Jaguar Temple was a Forge Hammer plus a Blazing Shield, which is a pretty good combo. But like, if you have like Tamok's Breath or any way to apply fire, this thing becomes a solid B. Alright, we have a Curse Shield. You know, any Curse Shield becomes great because it can gobble your affixes. But let's think about it objectively. As a reflect oriented shield, it's about the same power level as this shield over here that, you know, reflects melee damage, although it does get some extra use against bosses with some like sweet damage. Some of the bosses you can get melee hits, some of them you can't. But the fact that you can get cursed affixes makes me want to put it in A tier. Then we have Poison Bombs. Poison Bombs, what's their actual name? Fuming Skulls. Fuming Skulls, I'll put in C tier. They're a utility bomb with curse weapons only, which doesn't really fly because you need a curse weapon. And really, curse weapon with poison is probably the weakest combo you can get. So it goes in C tier. Oops. We have Gambit. Gambit is S tier. You can stun like an enemy by just charging at it repeatedly. Windglaive. Windglaive, I think, is the first hindrance. Is it? It's either a hindrance or a D tier. The problem is you get more range in front of you, but you lose the actual hitbox around you, which means that if you're used to your regular like hit radius that you get around you when you actually swing with a charge attack, you may end up missing enemies at critical moments in your string of attacks, and it might screw you up. Like, they're really fun once you get the hang out of it. So I'd put them in C tier, but you need to know what you're doing. The reason I put them in C tier is because they're like no better than a regular sword. Like, they do the same damage. Heartrender, Heartseeker, Heartrender. Heartrender is the dagger. Heartseeker is the other one. The throwing weapons. So Heartrender, it's a decent dagger. I'll put it at like the lower end of the daggers because it scales pretty slow. It's really good late game, and then early game it kind of sucks. So we'll put it in low A tier because it's a dagger. If chipped dagger goes in A, the Heartrender goes in A. All right, Heartseeker is our next S tier weapon. It has all the benefits of throwing weapons and extra on it with piercing. Also has extra range, which is one of the shortcomings of throwing weapons as opposed to other ranged weapons, which I guess is only pistols and bows. But you know, the range is not ideal. But Heartseeker actually has extra range, and if you can get like some crits on it with a Parry shield, it gets like really good. Throwing weapons over here. Okay, so throwing axes. Throwing axes are really, really, really good in theory, but they're really hard to execute, and you need a weaken applier. You can't just rely on parrying because you won't get enough uptime to get value out of it. If you look at the throwing axes do 12 damage, which is, I guess, as much as silver stars, so you know, that's something. Throwing axes are kind of hard to make work as opposed to like weighted blades, which are always active with extra damage. For that reason, I'll put the throwing axes in low A tier because they're still good. Actually, they scale pretty bad. Yeah, okay, no. For the scaling, we'll put them at high B tier. I'll reorganize this thing later, by the way. Incandescent claws. It's a good claw. It's like a top claw because you can get fire damage affixes on it, and you can get healing on it if you're low on cash with the transmutation. You can also get, you know, regular healing if you're low on health. But there's some good play potentials with this with this claw, and actually it has some good base damage. If I look at claw, hello claw. Incandescent Claw has 13 base damage, which is actually the highest next to Disemboweler, which is pretty sweet. So Incandescent goes in, where was it? Where is it? It's over here. It's in, I'll put it, yeah, it definitely goes above the Parry shield, but we'll move that later. Alright, firebombs. Firebombs. Actually, I'll put them IC. Oh, that's pirate bombs. I'll put them high C tier. Yes, I realize I'm putting bombs above swords, but it's actually a good utility bomb. It does reduce the damage you take from enemies that are on fire. That's not the ideal, you know, use case, but it's also a fire applicator for damage over time, which is essentially better poison. And then you get the added bonus effect that if you have a cursed weapon, which is the reason I would run utility bombs, you do get a nice weaken effect. So pirate bombs are D tier. They're not utility bombs, they're bad. They're just worse than crackling. It's kind of sad. We have Jaguar Bow. Jaguar Bow goes in. Honestly, I haven't played it. Unplayed. Sorry if anyone wanted a bow tier list. I haven't played bows since the rework. Jaguar Hammer goes in really low C tier. It's like a high damage heavy. I guess when you put the bomb next to the heavy weapon, I guess it sucks. This thing can go up. Anyway, Jude Mace. I'm not a big fan of Jude Mace because it puts you in the light. And that might sound weird because it's less damage taken, but also disables your, you know, relics for damage in darkness, which are consistent sources of damage. You can get similar light affixes, but they're weaker and ends up being less value for your buck. Although if I check Jeweled, for the heck of it, my Iki's dying, by the way, if you haven't noticed. If I haven't mentioned it like 50 times either. It's strictly better than the Stone Hammer. Because, well, actually that's not true because it has the light effect. But it has some high base damage, so it goes... Well, the thing is, if... is Desperation? Yeah, if Desperation is in B tier, then this thing is in C tier. But it's in high C tier. That's Piercing Bow. Haven't played Piercing Bow. I reckon it's pretty good. Honestly, I've used this staff like twice. Also, for those keeping track at home, that was King Bow and Ketiamian. I didn't know that was the name of the actual staff, but yeah, that's a staff, and I just haven't played it. We get Lynette Pistol. Lynette, for those that don't recall, which like can't differentiate them, which includes me because I don't play pistols much. It's the one with the cone. Alright, and you know, normal base damage, so it's like not that much better from just a regular pistol. Wait, where did I put it? Oh, in C. Well, that's pretty much where it goes. I guess I'll just group it with the poison, I guess. I do feel the poison is better because you can get damage affixes. Alright. This one might be controversial. I'm gonna put lightning bombs in B because they're actually pretty good utility. If you have a cursed weapon, lightning bombs are actually really good. You don't actually use the lightning bombs in main combat except if you have some downtime where you want to apply a shock status effect, and the shock status effect will in turn trigger both a stagger with, you know, the first application of dark damage and then a weaken on second application. So and you know, lightning bombs are actually pretty good, like in general. Like I find them, they're actually one of the most decent bomb types. We have the Machete. Okay, Machete goes, actually, personally I would put Machete above the Windmill thing. What's the name of this one? It's Malicious Skewer. Malicious Skewer is, you know, a really high base damage dagger. If you look at daggers, Malicious Skewer. Wait, what? Never mind, I'm mistaken. It's actually as little as Poison Blade. What the hell? You know, that's just me not playing the weapon, but I like every time I do play this weapon, it does like insane amount of damage. So I guess I'm gonna put it at like lower A tier. Moonblade. Moonblade is fun, but it's not good. It's going in C tier or B tier maybe. It's like one of the most usable because it actually has some mobility, so you can get some uses like claws. It's a discount claw. Obsidian Dagger is actually one of the only daggers, pretty much the only dagger is going to be in B, and it's in high B because it's a dagger, but it's hard to make work. It does work a lot better with Tanox because it procs itself. If you can get a Obsidian Dagger with percentage chance to apply ailments, it actually becomes pretty good. Once I had one with both poison and lightning, and I had Tamox bread, which means I applied all three elements with the Obsidian Dagger, but that's like 1 in 1,000 occurrence, so I'm not counting on it. It's subpar base damage. It's 20. It's the lowest in the category, apart from Heartrender that scales really low, which really should be lower. Actually, I have a Heartrender. Heartrender is in the same tier, all right. Soak Dagger, unplayed. Soak Dagger, Soak Torch. Oil Soak Torch is unplayed. Actually, it's D tier. I played with Torch only. It's bad. It does scale off your fire damage relics and all the hard-earned dexterity throughout the run. So you do about 5 damage with Torch by the end of it, which is not enough to kill Clovis. So, whoops. All right, we have Base Pistol. Base Pistol, honestly, pretty crappy. I'll put it like next to the Machete, I guess. All right, we're getting into heavy territory. We have the Primal Hammer. Primal Hammer. Primal Hammer. Lower than Jaguar. I mean, it's worse than Jaguar. It does weaken, but like you don't get much use out of it because you're locked in an animation for half the time. We have Primitive Spear. Primitive Spear is actually a high damage spear. Actually has some like really high tier damage, so it's gonna be in high B tier. Might actually go in A tier. No, let's check it. Primitive Spear, 30 damage. And you'll see it's actually comparable with Bloodstake, and you essentially it's a Bloodstake without cursed affixes, so you can get crit damage on it. But you can only get crit damage. You can only get one affix on it at the same time, as far as I reckon, because you, except if I'm mistaken, and you can get higher level base weapons, like and I mean like weapons with more than one affix. Like, do they start with an affix? I don't actually recall, but nonetheless, they're pretty good. They're a pretty good spear. All right, Primitive Spear, high tier spear. Like just generic damage. Right? So I'll put it like with the other spears at the top, and I put this spear by the bottom. All right, which one is this? This is the Rainmaker. What does Rainmaker do again? Rainmaker, sufficiently charged range attacks always trigger perfect shots. Well, it's technically better than the base pistol. It has more base damage. So we'll just put it above base pistol. It's just an ordinary pistol. A Reaper. Reaper, I'll put in B tier, low B tier. You know, the redeeming grace with Reaper is the fact that you can often combo and get damage out of it. Apart from that, like if you can stack some crit relics, Reaper is actually worth it. But you really need to scale it. Like you just continue leveling it up and try and Hail Mary some crit relics, and then you'll do enough damage to one-shot enemies. But if you end up like having to two-shot enemies, Reaper gets a lot worse. Right? We have the Sacrificial Mekana, which is single target crits. It's good bossing, so we'll put it in high C tier. Actually, I feel I'm being too harsh on swords. Okay, I'll put it in high C tier, and I do know that War Mekana is coming later, and that's going to be a B tier. All right, Poison Spear. Poison Spear, even if it's a poison weapon, is still a good spear because you can get some poison application on the whole crowd, and then you get some, you know, poison ticks in while you're fighting other stuff. So it's actually like a good spear. I'll put it like next to the other good spears. I just realized that like I've gone through almost all the spears and none of them have been in C tier. So whoops. Alright, Jeweled Hammer. Jeweled Hammer is actually pretty sweet. I'll put it in like a solid B tier. It goes... Actually, it's comparable to Desperation Flail. It gets some really good scaling off your levels, relic levels. Poison Dagger. Poison Dagger is a dagger. So it goes in A tier. I should have a flowchart for this. Like, and one of the nodes is it a dagger? Yes, A tier. No, B tier. Okay. Poison Bow. I haven't played. Sorry, Dopamine. You're not getting a. You're not getting a bow tier list from me. Alright, Sidewinder. Sidewinder is actually like high B tier. I mean low B tier. The reason I'm putting them above the regular swords is because you can actually use them with a secondary weapon. Secondary, I mean like two-handed weapon. So you can spend your entire stamina bar on two-handed and then get the Sidewinder entire combo in, which means that waiting for them to actually do their if you're fighting a boss, all right, and you spend your entire stamina bar on DPS, right, and you do an entire combo with your two-handed weapons and you're out, then the boss will start attacking because you ended a combo, but you can still start to attack with Sidewinder and maybe get a crit in with the finisher, even if you have no stamina, while they're preparing an attack, and then you get ready for the parry, and then you regain your stamina, and then you add just a free finisher in there. Throwing stars. Throwing stars are they're throwing weapons. Okay, so this is going down, and this is going next to it. Actually, I'll put them above. I do like the throwing stars; they're fun, and they actually do pretty well with the crit shield. Because if it's active, your throwing stars when you dodge will also crit. But they do scale pretty well. If you do scale them pretty hard, like if you have like 3, 4, even 5, like that would be like ideal. Have 5 upgrade paths. You would get some really good mileage out of throwing stars, just dodging stuff and killing like enemies around the room. Storm Hammer. Storm Hammer is a good quality hammer. It's a heavy weapon though. Slaver Mace. Slaver Mace is a decent mace. I would put it next to these ones that we just talked about. It's a good quality mace. You get the charge attacks and then you get the finisher. With an extra crit damage. It's nice. Alright, Fire Pistol. Fire Pistol goes next to Poison Pistol, but right above it. It scales. It scales of elemental relics, and that's pretty much it. The Lightning Hammer. Lightning Hammer goes next to the other good hammers. There we go. Then we have, it's just nice to have some, instead of having a crit, you get they're comparable, right? Slaver and Lightning Hammer. Is it called Lightning Hammer? What's the name? It's called Spark Hammer, all right. So Spark Hammer and Slaver are really comparable because instead of getting a crit, you get an interrupt with a fire proc. And actually, I think that puts it above. Also, you get some applications for lightning, which might come and play with the storm shield, or any way to proc lightning. So it combos with other lightning weapons, which is always nice to have self combos in your loadout. I always forget what this thing is. It's called the steel-tipped talons. Is it the one that when you dodge, you get the steel-tipped talons? Yeah, critical damage for 3 seconds. It's actually a pretty good quality claw. I'll put it like next to fire claws. They're pretty good. Dynamite is pretty sad. Like, it goes next to crackling. I guess it goes above crackling. The thing is, like, dynamite procs are really good, but you only proc on enemy kill, and if enemies have a lot of HP and you're in late game and it's mostly elites, they're not gonna die, or they're gonna die all at the same time anyway, which means you won't get much value out of dynamite. It does some decent base damage. Let me check. Yeah, it's 30, so it's like comparable to the other like high damage. It's a good weapon, but it's not utility bombs, and utility bombs are better than regular bombs, except if you're talking poison, I guess. We have the regular bow. Regular bow goes in, I would be tempted to say D tier, but I haven't played it much, so you know, maybe it's actually pretty good. Poison Whip. I'm actually a whip advocate, and I'll say Poison Whip is pretty good. It has the same benefits as the Poison Spear, which is you apply to all the enemies around you, and then you get some poison ticks while you're fighting individuals, which means it's actually pretty sweet. It doesn't have that much base damage, but it does kill off elemental relics, which is really nice. This hammer, I forget its name. Too hard to execute. Actually, is it too hard to execute? I just never get it to, you know, actually proc properly, or they die from the actual charge attack. What's its name again? It's the Stonebreaker. Stonebreaker is the multiple AoE stuff. All right, we get the base hammer. Base hammer goes in C tier. It's a decent weapon, I guess. Storm Whip. Is it Storm Whip? Yeah, it's Storm Lash. All right, Storm Lash goes in. Actually, I'll put Storm Lash in A. Storm Lash is really good. Wait, yeah, actually it is. Actually better than the. Actually, it's comparable to the regular whip. It's better than the regular whip, actually. There we go. Storm Shield. Storm Bulwark. Yeah, Storm Bulwark. Storm Bulwark is a good quality shield. So, I mean, it goes in like high B tier. I'll put it like above Crossbow, I guess. We'll move that later. Storm Spear. Storm Spear haven't played enough to have an opinion, but from all I've played of it, it's comparable to the other spears, I would say. Although it does get some good utility with staggers on everyone, so I'll put it at top of B tier. Actually, I'll just put it in A tier because, you know, it staggers everywhere. I did play it a bit. Also, Swiftbow. Well, Swiftbow is pretty underwhelming. I'll just put it unplayed. I haven't played it. Like, I literally just don't pick it up. Throwing weapons, D. Wait, actually, no. Throwing weapons are pretty good. Throwing weapons are a low B. Throwing knives. Again, with the shotgunning potential, and they actually have some good base damage. If you're good at throwing knives, they have 13 base damage, which is, you know, high tier. How is Evasive Knives 15 damage? Is that accurate? That doesn't feel accurate. Am I gonna have to bump Evasive Knives? Oh, they're already 8 here. Well, we're fine then. Yeah. Actually, I'll put this in mid B tier. If the claw gets to be in mid B tier, like the base claw, then the throwing knives get to be in B tier. All right. So again, another heavy weapon. Titan Slayer. Titan Slayer is underwhelming, but it's better than D. Dark Riposte over here. Vengeance. Well, Vengeance is a good quality spear. We'll put it up in A tier, next to its other cursed brethrens. All right, Poison Dagger, Poison Claw. I mean, Poison Claw actually goes in A tier. It does a lot of damage on bosses. because the poison actually has time to tick. War Mekana, as I discussed earlier, actually I didn't discuss it, I just said it would be an A tier. It's a really good sword because it gets some, you know, automatic crit scaling with everything. You should be charging with every sword attack you make, like if at all possible. And if they're all crits, then all the better. Warmonger Claws, they go in A tier. They're actually really good. There's some stupid strategies I do sometimes where I just put myself at 50% HP at the first round on purpose with the blessing that gives you Constitution below 50. And it just, you know, scales for the entire game. Similar to Ceremonial Dagger, but you know, less crazy. Here we have Weighted Blades. Weighted Blades are high A tier. We're gonna put them over here above daggers. Actually, no, I feel like the daggers are just better. Daggers do so much base damage. Then we have the Auto Parry Shield. You know, Auto Parry Shield might be the one I put in hindrance. And people might be outraged by the fact that I'm going to put this in hindrance. The problem with the Auto Parry Shield, it has saved my ass countless times. It is a really good learning tool. And actually tells you some things that you can parry that you wouldn't think are parryable, because you get hit by something and you get instantly parry and you're like, oh, that's possible. Well, yeah, it's actually possible. The Parry Shield, the problem with it is that you can parry while dodging. It will auto parry while dodging, and that can be a problem, especially against Clovis, actually. But in general, it will, from my experience, maybe they fixed, maybe it's a bug that they fixed, but as far as I'm aware, if you parry while you are dodging, and it only happens with this shield because, you know, you can't parry while dodging, you get out of the roll. And the problem is you might not expect getting out of the roll, and that might get you hit by successive attacks. You know, dodging has some really long high frames, and you might expect to be invulnerable for a long time. So, personally, I find it a hindrance. If we're talking about some learning tool, they're actually like probably high B tier, low A tier, because it's actually a really good shield. But personally, I'll find it a hindrance. Winfrey Pike, I'll switch now. Winfrey Pike is, you know, decent spear. Used to be broken, now it's, I would say, mid B tier. You know, some good AoEs. If you get some crits, it's nice. But yeah, it's a pretty normal spear. All right, we have two remaining stuff. Also, as from what I've heard, the Fire Whip would probably be an hindrance, but I haven't played it, so I can't tell. Anyway, base shield. It's the Broken Shield, I think. It's called the Worn Shield. So the Worn Shield goes in. Honestly, it goes below. Wait, how much damage does it do? That's actually the deciding factor. It's identical. Okay, so it goes below Blazing Shield. Shields do a lot of damage. You can get offhands with shields. You know, as a quick attack, and actually tie into the next weapon we're talking about. But you can get offense with really pretty quick offense, and they do a lot of damage. The base damage on shield is actually insane, and they do give you a bigger parry window, which is always nice. Also allows you to just spam parry on some boss attacks instead of having to time it. But yeah, like the charge attack on shields is great for movement. actually interrupts anything too. Always nice. Yeah, regular shield, pretty nice. Just as a tool, it goes in C tier because it doesn't do anything remarkable. Now we have this piece, this piece of crap. The Sunderer. Sunderer is a nice concept. Personally, I don't find it does enough damage to justify costing stamina. So often, as I said, often combos do not cost stamina with shields, but they do with Sunderer. And it just doesn't do enough damage for it to be worth it to spend some of your like really limited stamina, especially at the end of a combo, which is when you would offhand. Spending it on Sunderer, which is unreliable. The problem with Sunderer is that the hitbox, I mean, I don't actually know how to call it properly, but the area with which you hit enemies is not actually, it doesn't start at your character model, and it might not clip into enemies. You might not actually hit enemies that are too close to you. So there's a portal animation with the fist coming out of it, and the portal animation is in front of Caradog, which means that sometimes, especially if you're using claws, you might just not get the hit in, which sucks. So that's like a double hindrance, right? So sometimes it just doesn't hit, and also it costs stamina to offhand, which probably not worth it. But yeah, that's the tier list. Let me reorder stuff real quick. We have ceremonial. I mean, like realistically, cursed sword goes to the top. It is like the most broken weapon in the game. So I guess the order is Heartseekers this way. Okay, so we have Cursed Sword, Heartseekers, Gambit. Now we're gonna order the A tier. I say, honestly, not a big fan of this whip. Like if I'm talking in this tier, all right. Mekana probably goes a little bit higher. It has some really good clear potential. The spears are just nice. It's just like a really good bunch of weapons. I'm actually gonna put I'm gonna put this thing over here, and the whip is actually gonna go down. This whip is a little bit less good. The claws are going up. They're good for combos. Alright, so we'll keep it at this. And we have over here, crossbow is maybe overrated right now. We'll put it below the spears. This pistol is definitely overrated. It just got placed early. So we'll just put it like below the maces. I feel like Forge Hammer can go in B tier, like next to its Mace Brethrens, because it's pretty easy to proc hit the crit, and then it becomes a better Slave Hammer. So I would say they're equivalent over here. I would put this sword above this one. Reaper, well, if the Alchemist is over here, Reaper goes above it. Chroma Knives are nice. Are they that nice? Well, they're better than bombs. Also, the bombs are at the bottom, alright? The Chroma Knives actually get placed next to those. I'm actually going to place them above the maces, which does mean that there's no throwing weapon worse than a mace. It's kind of wild. In my ranking system, it might actually change from people to people. It will probably change. This thing, the shield goes down. The shield goes down pretty pretty low. I think it actually goes above the pistol. I do prefer a shield over a pistol. And then this shield might get brought down. I mean, the fun factor is there with the stone burrow work, so I think it goes. Well, the thing is, it's comparable to the mace, so it's gonna go here. All right, C tier. Machete goes bottom. Well, actually, does it? Oh, that's pretty bad. Actually, the bombs, the bombs might have to hold the spot. Actually, do I prefer a sword or a bomb? That's the question. Actually, I think I might prefer the bombs just for the challenge. So they're gonna go. Well, it's a tier list of actual strength. So no, okay, well, stop messing about. Bombs are bad. You know, I'd play Machete above heavies. Sorry about that. Although I might put the Machete below the other heavies over here. Poison bombs are definitely below those two. I do prefer a broadsword over this one. Those two are pretty much interchangeable. Actually, those two are interchangeable. This one is worse, so I think it's a fair ranking. Actually, yes, those two were next to each other because they're comparable. Then we have those two sword lineup. Honestly, I don't really care for this, but it's a cursed weapon which might double your dagger, so it goes in C tier. Actually, pretty much any weapon, like any cursed weapon, automatically becomes B tier just because cursed weapon can double. So I guess this goes in B tier, and the B tier grows a bit. Sorry, you're getting left behind, your poor molten sword. There we go. We have the fire bombs, which definitely go below those. Actually, I'll put this sword about the same, and I'll put the hammers above the sword. I do prefer hammers to swords because they do some better base damage and they have higher potential to quickly kill higher HP enemies. It might take you like 3 sword swings to kill an enemies, but 2 mace swings to kill them, which means that like your charge attacks are actually worth more. Even though they're slower weapons, you end up having to hit less, so your DPS is higher on single enemies that you don't waste your DPS on. Anyway, alright, D tier. Well, there's not much to order here. Pirate bombs are garbage, but they're better than the torch. Well, this goes above because that's just a strictly. Is it strictly better? What's the damage of Broken Longsword versus Stonebreaker? Yeah, it's strictly better. There we go. Stonebreaker goes here. Alright, I'm just gonna rank the unplayed by how fun it sounds. This sounds boring. This sounds mildly more interesting. Poison Bow. Well, you know, this sounds pretty cool. This is the cool chart. Isn't that piercing? Piercing sounds fun. Actually, piercing sounds really fun. Annihilation is kind of boring. I'll put it here. Honestly, I'm intrigued by the Fire Whip, which I've never gotten to play, so I'll put it over here. But I do want to get better with the bows. Anyway, I think that's the tier list. We have a complete tier list of weapons. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Please do feel free to tell me where you would rank stuff compared to mine. I will make the link available for this tier list so you can make your own adjustments to it and put your own stuff in it. And yes, I will see you around when I'm doing a video that's actual gameplay. Have a good one.